team I think is going to win the NBA championship this year is the team that I thought was going to win the championship at the end of last season. That would be the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, everybody knows about the Thunder's star power. They have two of the biggest stars in the game in Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. The reason I think they're going to win the title this year is because of the size they have with their front line. Now, they made a great acquisition at the trade deadline last year, bringing in a guy like Kendrick Perkins to man the middle, but Perk was out of shape towards the end of last season. He was coming off a major knee surgery, and I don't think he had it in him to play at that level of defense that he's used to playing. Now, this year, Perkins is in great shape. He's leading the defensive effort on that front line, along with Serge Ibaka. And they also have Nick Collison, Nazr Mohammed, even Cole Aldrich is available to come off the bench and provide depth. This is a big man's league where size wins championship. And even though the Thunder had the star power to win last year, I don't think they had the size. This year, I think that front line will help them get past the Lakers and get past the Spurs on their way to the NBA title. The player I think will have the most influence on his team's success is Oklahoma City's Russell Westbrook. Now, Russell had a horrific playoffs last year. He was criticized for his shot selection and not giving the ball up enough to Kevin Durant. I feel like Russell has taken some great strides this year. He still is prone at times to some erratic shot attempts, and he still can be head-scratching for the Thunder, but the way he played in the first round, he looks like a guy poised to take his game to the next level. And if Russell and Kevin Durant are in sync, and you have James Harden coming off the bench, along with that big front line, this team is going to have a lot of success. I think Westbrook has a chance to dominate all the other point guards in the playoffs and push his team into the finals. Will Tim Duncan retire? I don't think so. Now, Tim Duncan is 36 years old, and he's played the equivalent of 3 extra seasons in his playoff games, but I think he's going to stick around for a couple more years. First and foremost, the Spurs have showed great depth this year. They played 10 players more than 20 minutes per game, and that gave Duncan the requisite rest he needed to be fresh for the postseason and fresh for the future. He's also playing for a coach and Greg Popovich who knows how to give him his rest, who knows when to give him games off, who knows how to keep him fresh for the postseason. And Duncan isn't the focal point of this team anymore. That responsibility falls to Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. Because of all those reasons, I think we're going to see Tim Duncan in the Spurs uniform for at least 2 more years. The Lakers don't have many options this year when it comes to Metta World Peace. Now, the small forward position has been one of their weaker positions all season long. The Lakers have Matt Barnes and Devin Ebanks there now, but they need Metta World Peace to be successful. Now, before his untimely elbow of James Harden, Metta was playing some of his best basketball of the season. He had filled in capably offensively for Kobe Bryant and was still the defensive menace that he's been throughout the course of his career. They need Metta World Peace to win a championship, so I expect when Metta comes back from his suspension for them to plug him back into the lineup. Going forward, I think Metta World Peace is a prime candidate to be amnestied, traded, or even outright cut, because I think the Lakers have had just about enough of his antics, and his salary this year wasn't really worth his production. I don't think the Miami Heat can live up to expectations because I think expectations are that they'll win the NBA championship, and I just don't see that happening this year. Now, the injury to Derrick Rose has somewhat cleared the path for them in the Eastern Conference. It's more likely they wind up facing Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, but that Celtics team is still pretty tough. They've got a guy that can defend Chris Bosh and Kevin Garnett, and they completely overwhelm them at the point guard position with Rajon Rondo. But let's assume Miami gets past Boston and into the NBA Finals. I still think that whoever comes out of the Western Conference is going to be a tough team for Miami to beat. I think Oklahoma City is going to be that team, and I think Oklahoma City is a lot like Dallas was last year, where they are more of a complete team that knows itself. And that's the kind of team, like Dallas, that Miami tends to have a little bit of trouble with. They can beat teams filled with individual players, but when they go up against a team that plays well together, that has great chemistry, that plays great team defense, that's when Miami tends to struggle. I think they get past Boston into the NBA Finals, but if they want to play a team like Oklahoma City, San Antonio, or the Lakers, I think they lose that series. And we all know Miami Heat's expectations are to win NBA championships. Well, it seems like the condensed schedule has already affected the playoffs with serious injuries to Joakim Noah, Derrick Rose, Iman Shumpert, and others that have already affected the first round. But I think going forward, that condensed schedule might affect it in a different way. Now, during this condensed schedule, we had so many teams that had to play their veteran guys less. They had to ease up on the throttle because they wanted to keep some of their older players fresher for the rest of the season. Now, we have something a little different. The playoffs are much more spread out. Teams have 1, 2, even 3 days in between games, and I think that affects positively some of the older teams that are out there. I think a team like Boston, which has had to rest key guys like Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett during the regular season, is going to get a big boost out of that. And I think San Antonio, which even though they won the top seed in the Western Conference this year, had to sit some of their key players out for long stretches. I think because those teams are going to be able to play their star players regularly scheduled minutes, even extend them in certain games because they're not afraid of back-to-backs, they're not afraid of 3 games in 3 nights, those teams are going to be even stronger than they were in the regular season.